Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. We are discussing sociological theories. In our last lecture, we discussed about Emile Durkheim, and before that, we discussed about sociologist Karl Marx. We discussed the class conflict theory of Karl Marx, historical dialecticism of the Karl Marx. Then we discussed the various theories of the Emile Durkheim, that is the division of labor and what is social types and everything. Today we'll discuss in this series. Today we'll discuss about Max Weber, one of the prominent sociologists, Max Weber. Weber conceptualized sociology as a mode of inquiry distinct from the natural sciences. Yes, it was done by even by the Emile Durkheim. According to Emile Durkheim, we can study sociology as we can study the natural sciences. But according to the Max Weber, the mode of inquiry is distinct. The mode of inquiry of sociology is distinct from the natural sciences. According to him, it is different from the natural sciences, and the distinctive subjective matter concerning the meaning attributes to the social actors to their action in a specific historical context. See, according to Max Weber, we'll compare and contrast Emile Durkheim, Karl Marx, and the Weber in our next lectures. Right? We'll concentrate on the Max Weber only. Uh, Max Weber, according to the Max Weber, the mode of inquiry of sociology is different from the mode of inquiry of the natural sciences, and that the distinctive subject matter concerning the meaning of attributes of the social actor. He has given emphasis on the social actor, and according to him, it is very important to study the actions of the social actors subjectively, right? Why a person or an individual behaves in a particular way, it is very important to study that action, the action of the actor in subjectively, and in a specific historical context. Let us discuss the biographical sketch of Max Weber. Max Weber was born on 21st of April 1864 in Germany in a prosperous Protestant family. His father was a politician and very much a part of the political establishment of the day, leading a luxurious lifestyle. His mother, Helene, was a deeply religious person whose values were opposed to those of her husband. Weber's parents had a strained relationship, and this impacted their children, including Max. Early socialization and schooling of the Weber. Weber was a weak child and suffered from brain disease at age of 4. In early adolescence, he read extensively and developed intellectual interest of his own. He was brought up in a intellectual stimulating family atmosphere. Right, although his family was well to do, but because of the strained relationship of the parents, it impacted Max and the other children of the family, and he was brought up in an intellectual stimulating atmosphere, and it impacted his interest. And in early adolescence, he read extensively and developed intellectual interest. Weber was a shy and withdrawn by nature in his school days. School teachers frequently complained about Weber's indiscipline and lack of respect for elder ones or for the authorities. In 1882, Max Weber went to University of Heidelberg. From here, you will see the changes in the life of Max Weber. When he went to the University of Heidelberg in 1882, Max Weber suddenly became active and began to mix socially. During school time, he was a shy child, and his teachers frequently complained about him, about his behavior. When he entered in in the university in 1882, right, he suddenly became active and began to mix socially. In the university, he became popular among students. However, he did not complete his education, and after 3 terms, he left for the military training or the services in Strasbourg. After 2 years of military services, Weber turned to his parents in 1884. He joined the University of Berlin to complete his education. He also studied in University of Göttingen. His PhD thesis was on the history of commercial societies in Middle Ages. You will see that his work, that is his work on capitalism, is related to his thesis. That his thesis is history of commercialization or the commercial societies in the Middle Ages, and his postdoctoral study was on the Roman agrarian history. So his PhD thesis was on the commercial societies, and his postdoctoral thesis is on the Roman agrarian history. He attained the position of a professor in the German university system when he was only in his early 30s. So he became professor in early 30s because of his intellect and his work. He demonstrated his academic brilliance and scholarship in various lectures and addresses. The most famous was his 1895 public lecture on national state and economic policy, which is popularly known as the Freiburg Address. So he delivered an lecture in 1895 on national state and on economic policies, national state and the economic policies, and this lecture is popularly known as the Freiburg Address. Right. His academic achievement took him to the great heights. While his personal life underwent a deep crisis, although he was very intelligent, right? But he has gone a lot through his personal life. His personal life was in deep crisis. He underwent a deep crisis in his personal life. His father's sudden death after an argument with his son upset Max Weber deeply. He held himself responsible for his father's demise and suffered from a feeling of intense guilt. As a result, for several years, Weber suffered from mental breakdown. While he was a child, he was just 4. He was suffering from a mental illness, from a brain disease. Then, after the death of his father, he felt that he was responsible for the sudden demise of his father, and the Weber suffered from the mental breakdown because of his guilt after the death of his father. And because of this mental breakdown, this led him to resigning from the professorship at the University of Heidelberg. Right, he held the position of professor in his early 30s. His work is commendable. He delivered a lot of lectures, but he was a very intelligent and academically he was uncomparable. But there was lot of crisis. He underwent a lot of crisis in his personal life, and because of the problems in his personal life, he resigned from his professorship at the University of Heidelberg. In 1903, he was able to resume his scholarly work again, but he did not return to teaching for several years. Although, after many years, in 1903, he started his work again but did not return to the teaching. Uh, During this period, he tackled many themes, and these themes include the interrelationship between the religious idea and economic and social changes. Pay attention towards the themes of his work, that is the interrelationship between religious ideas and economic and social changes, right? According to him, that it is the religious idea, it is because of the religion who has given rise to the capitalism. We'll discuss about this in detail. That is, between the interrelationship, according to him, there is an interrelationship between the religious ideas and economic and social changes, that religion is responsible for economics and the social changes according to Karl Marx. The growth of rationality as defining feature of modernity. Uh, according to him, a rationality is an important feature, right? Important feature of modernity, and it is the defining feature, right? He discussed various types of rationalities, right? Power and authority and the control of modern state over the individual. According to him, that power and the authority have control, that is the power, authority, and the control of modern state over the individual. That is, the modern state have the power and the authority and the control over the individual. And he discussed the power, authority, and bureaucracy in detail. We'll discuss about all these themes in detail later on in this or another lecture. That is the interrelationship of the religious idea, that according to him, that it is because of the religion that has given rise to the capitalism, it is responsible for economic and social changes. Then he has defined the various type of rationalities, that rationality is an essential feature of modernity, and power, authority, bureaucracy, and control of national state over the individual. In 1904, Weber published his important essays pertaining to social and economic issues. The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism was published in 1905. That is the religious ideas, that is the impact of religious idea, or the religious ideas are responsible for this economic and social changes. And in Protestant Ethics and the Spirit of Capitalism, which was published in 1905, in this book, he elaborated this idea that it is because of the religious idea of Protestant that has given rise to the capitalism. That is the Protestant ethics and the spirit of capitalism. According to him, that according to the Protestant ethic, it is the religious belief that people should earn more and should invest the profit to earn further more. And this ethic, this Protestant ethic, or this religious belief has given rise to the capitalism, the spirit of capitalism, right? Some of his path-breaking contribution included his studies on the religion of China, Confucianism, and Taoism, published in 1915. He studied the various religions in details, and then he compared and contrasted the various religion on various aspects. And in 1955, he published studies on the religion of China, specifically the Confucianism and the Taoism in 1950. The religion of India, Hinduism, Buddhism, and the ancient Judaism is published in 1916 and 17. So he studied the various religions of China, that is Judaism and the Confucianism and the Taoism. Then he studied about the Hinduism, about Buddhism, and the various religions of India and the ancient Judaism. So he studied the various religions in detail. That's why he worked on the religious ethics, right? His work is based on the religious ethics and the impact of the religious ethics on social and economic changes. Weber major contribution can be classified under the following categories, like writing on the economic history, right? A writing based upon the empirical studies on the rural worker, industrial worker condition, and the German stock market, and writing on the cultural sciences and their methodologies. So he worked extensively. He extensively on the economy, right? So he contributed towards the economic history, right? How the economic conditions of changes from one state to another state, or from one era to another era. So he wrote on the economic history. Then he studied that on the rural worker, industrial worker conditions, and the German stock market, and the cultural sciences. Writing on the sociology of the religion, including Calvinism, Confucianism, Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and ancient Judaism. He wrote extensively about these religions. Writing on the general sociology, particularly the relationship between the economic, religious, judicial, and the political system, right? So according to him, that there is a nexus, right? There is a relationship between the economy, between the religion, between the jurisdiction and the judicial and the political system. All these are related together. The political system decides the religion, and the judicial system decides the economy. It impacts the economy of any state. And he died in 1920. Okay. So this was a biographical sketch of Karl Marx. The socio-historical background. If we discuss about the socio-historical background, Weber was a public intellectual. He was passionately engaged and participated in political sphere because he was from a political background. His father was active in politics, right? So he passionately engaged and participated in the political sphere, and he volunteered for the military services when the first war broke out. As we discussed, that he left his studies for to serve army, to serve German army. And he volunteered for the army services during the First World War. And he was deeply critical of the German leadership and the war policies. Although he served army for some period of time, but he was critical. After serving this, he was critical to the German leadership and the war policies, and he advocated for overhaul of political system, which made him very unpopular with the ruling class. Although he was active in politics, but he was critical, he was deeply critical to the German leadership and the war policies. So he advocated for the changes of the political system, or the overhaul of the political system, and this made him very unpopular among the political class, or the ruling class. After Germany's humiliating defeat in the First World War in 1918, Weber argued for sovereignty in the politics. He assisted in drafting of a new constitution and founding of the German Democratic Party. So see how active he was in the politics. He assisted in drafting a new constitution of the Germany and founding the German Democratic Party. A new party was founded, and that party was a German Democratic Party. So he assisted in founding a Democratic Party, and he assisted in drafting a new constitution also. Weber started taking interest in politics and was active in Christian social political circle. He published numerous papers pertaining to the socio-political situation of Germany of the period. So, according to him, he published the various socio-political conditions of the Germany during a particular period. Weber's work possesses a very interesting contrast to that of the Karl Marx. He is the one who criticized Karl Marx. So his work is in contrast to that of the Karl Marx. Karl Marx's materialistic conception of history was marked by economic determinism. As we discussed that, according to Karl Marx, it is the it is the material who determines the each and every action. It is the material which is responsible for each and every action, right? So material determines every action of the society or of an individual. So Karl Marx's materialistic conception of history was marked by economic determination. Weber, in contrast, theorized that fundamental role of values and beliefs system in shaping the counter material existence and provided a corrective to Marxian model. According to Marx, it is the economy or it is the material. In fact, it is the material which is responsible for changes or for the economic changes, right? For conflicts in the it is the material which is responsible for conflict among the classes. It is the material which is responsible for the formation of classes. It is the material one day which will be responsible for the formation of a classless society. So, according to Karl Marx, it is the material which determines everything in the society. So that is why it is Karl Marx was known as a economic determinist. But according to Marx, according to Max Weber, it is not only the economic conditions or the material, but the values and beliefs play a fundamental role in shaping up the in shaping up the actor's action. It is the values, beliefs, right, that counters the material existence. He tried to counter the material existence through the sciences, because the natural sciences, the aim of natural sciences is to predict accurately, to predict anything accurately and then generalize. That is based on the empirical observation and the positive worldview, particularly in England and the France, that is Auguste Comte and that Durkheim. All these are the positivist. England and France held that the study of social or the cultural phenomenon should be guided by the principle of the natural sciences. We discussed about the Durkheim. Durkheim is a positivist, right? According to the positivist, we can study the society or the social sciences as per the rule of the natural sciences. But the scholars in the Germany rejected this view and stressed upon the contextual and the historically specific nature of social phenomenon and the way in which they differ across time, space, and historical circumstances. So, according to positivist, according to the positivist, we can study the social sciences as per the rules of the natural sciences. But according to the scholars in Germany, no, the scholars in Germany, we can study the social sciences could be studied or studied on the contextual and historically specific nature of social phenomenon. See, according to them, the social phenomenon should be studied on the basis of the context and the history, right? And the way in which they differ across time, space, and historical circumstances. So, we should study the phenomenon of social sciences as per the context, as per the historical context, and we should study the way in which they differ across the time, because over a period of time circumstances might have changed, right? So the actors actions, right? So they stressed on the context and the historical specific nature, and we should study the social sciences in preview of context and the historical specific nature, and the way they differ across the time, space, and historical circumstances. Weber rejected the positivist notion that the cognitive aim of natural and social sciences were basically the same. And he also challenged the German historist view. According to Weber, scientific method always take recourse to abstraction and generalization. So he rejected both the ideas, that the idea of positivist and the idea of historic view, right? So according to him, that this scientific method always takes a recourse to abstraction and generalization. To understand human being and their action, it was necessary to understand their motivations, which were not observed like outward and overt behavior. So, according to Max Weber, it is very important if you want to understand the human action, human behavior, right? It is very important to understand their motivation, the reason behind their action. What is motivation? The reason behind their action. So it is very important to understand their motivation, right? And you cannot understand their motivation through observation, or through outward observation or overt behavior. You have to be one of them. You should involve yourself with them. So if you want to study anyone's action from outside, it is not at all possible. Weber played a major role in proposing methodology that would enable social scientists to understand the constructed nature from social reality, from perspective of social actor or individuals living in society, as well as larger or macro processes at the societal level. So he proposed how social scientists can study the social reality, that is from the perspective of the actor or individual who are living in the society. If you will observe from the outside, you will, or through overt observation, you will not be able to understand the motivation why actor has taken that action, or why actor has behaved in a particular way, right? So he has proposed a methodology through which the social scientist can study, can construct and study the perspective of the social actor, right, or individual living in the society, right, at macro process and the societal level. His idea about the role and value judgment in conducting sociological research was an important methodological and philosophical contribution. Immanuel Kant made a clear cut distinction between the biological or physical dimensions of human existence and the spiritual or the idealistic dimensions. These influences can be seen in Weber's approach to the methodology, understanding, and social action. So he was influenced by Immanuel Kant because he distinguished between the biological or the physical dimensions of the human existence. To understand the human being and their culture and their history, an empathetic understanding of the reason behind human action and the understanding of overall culture pattern was essential, right? That is what the Weber suggested, that you cannot study this society from outside. An empathetic view is required to understand the social action or the action of an individual or the actor. The idea of the German philosopher William Windelband, uh, H. Rickert, and William Delthe greatly influenced Weber. So he was influenced by Kant, by Delthe, by Band, by Rickert. Windley Band, that aims and objective of natural and culture sciences were different. That is what Weber said, that you cannot study the social sciences as you can study the natural sciences. Natural sciences aimed at generating the universal law. The cultural sciences aim at more particular strict understanding of a unique phenomenon, right? So what is the aim of the social sciences? The aim of the cultural sciences is to understand the particularistic understanding of a unique phenomenon. Why in this way? Dilthey believed that to properly undertake a study of human society and culture, it was not enough to study it from the outside, like a physical or the natural phenomenon, but rather from the inside through experience and subjective understanding. So he was influenced by Kant, Dilthey, Wendelbend, and the Ricketts. Weber notion of Wordsthany or empathetic understanding was deeply influenced by the Delthay's formulation. He has given Max Weber has given a notion of Wordsthany or empathetic understanding, right? We'll discuss about the Varsthane in detail. Weber's notion about the Varsthane or empathetic understanding was deeply influenced by the Delthe. As per the Delthe, it is not at all possible to study the human society and culture from the outside. So it is like the natural sciences, right? So to study out, if you really want to study about the human society, it is very important to go through that experience, and you should understand the society subjectively rather than um, understanding the society objectively. Weber conceived of empathetic understanding as only the first step in sociological analysis of the phenomenon, to be followed by the causal explanation that was closer to the positivist and empirical tradition of the natural sciences. Now, causality and probability. He has given a new term, probability. What is causality and probability? Causality, we know, that is the relationship between the effect and cause, right? Reason and the cause, right? There is sometimes misunderstanding that Weber, in tune with German idealistic tradition, rejected the notion of idealistic. That is inaccurate, as Weber firmly believed that both historical and sociological causality, that is, you should understand the causality, as we said, the current, if this thing has happened, what is the reason behind it? So he was very much in favor of the causality, study of the causality, right? Due to the extreme difficulty in making straightforward causal links in something as complex as the social world, Weber uses the concept probability. At times, it is difficult to link the things with one another in a straight way. Right, it is difficult to make a straightforward causal links, right, in complex social words. So Weber uses the term probability, no, not probability. What does probability implies, right? So the probability implies that in a given social situation, human beings are likely to respond in a particular manner, which is governed by the norms of a society. Probably how in a particular society, how a normal human being will behave, that probably they will behave in a given they will behave according to the norms of the society, right? Maximum probability is there, but this cannot be guaranteed with complete certainty for all the actors. It is not see, normally majority of people will behave in according to the norms of the society, but it is not possible that all actors will behave in a certain way, in that way only, right? It is not guaranteed with complete certainty for all actors, because there may be certain unique circumstances that may result in them behaving or acting differently. It is you cannot guarantee that all will behave in that particular way, right? Because why? Because of some unique circumstances that may result them behaving or acting differently, because their circumstances could be different, so they could behave in a different way. So he used the term probability. Weber distinguishes between the historical causality and the sociological probability. Historical causality refers to the unique causes that give rise to a particular event, while the sociological probability refers to the connection of interrelationship between two phenomena. Probability, that is the connection between the two phenomena, how two phenomena are connected. It depends on many other things, right? So Weber attempted to reconcile the subjective and interpretative understanding of social and historical phenomenon with rigorous scientific method based upon the causal analysis. So according to Max Weber, it is very important, if you want to study this society, you should study it in a subjective manner. He emphasized on the subjective and interpretative understanding of social and historical phenomenon. You should understand the phenomenon subjectively and interpretate it. Why this has happened? Interpretation should be there, right? And if so, he attempted to reconcile the subjective and interpretative understanding of social and the historical phenomenon with rigorous scientific methods. This subjective study and the interpretative study should be scientific, right? It should be based on the scientific method. Sociology must be concerned with empirical analysis of the society and history. The method of sociology would have to be different from that of the natural sciences, according to Max Weber. Sociological analysis would have to examine the social action with within a context of social interaction and would have to be interpretative. So you should study the society subjectively, and you should study, examine the social action, why someone has behaved in a particular way, or why someone is behaving in a particular way with reference to a particular context of social interaction, right? How they are interacting with each other, what is the you should understand the social action with reference to the social interaction, and it should be interpretative. In order to understand the social behavior of human action, it is imperative that the social scientists engage the values and beliefs that underlie the behavior of human beings in this society, right? Objectivity and values in social sciences. There was no such thing as an objective sciences of society, unlike the earlier founders of the sociology. One of the Weber's major concern was the relation between the science and human action, and distinguished between the value relevance and the value neutrality. That is, the researcher cannot twist or manipulate the findings, right, to suit his or her own ideology or value system. Value neutrality highlights the gap between the facts and values. So according to Weber, the researcher should be value neutral, right? Right, you cannot twist or manipulate the finding to suit the needs of researchers ideology or the values. According to Weber, the role of scientist was to not engage in the moral debates or to act like a prophet or the sage, but rather to throw light upon the facts and their interrelationship. What do you think is and what actually happens? The role of the researcher is to just throw the light on the facts, what actually happens, and their interrelationship, why it happens, right? The central ideas of Max Weber, he has given an idea of ideal type. Now, what is ideal type? What is ideal type? Ideal type is nothing but a methodological tool. By using this tool, one can study the society in a scientific way. The ideal type has a certain model or construct of reality to be studied is formulated by the researcher. So, what is ideal type? It is a methodological tool and it has to be formulated by the researcher, right? It is a type of a certain model, and this model has to be formulated by the researcher. by abstracting the most prominent feature of that phenomenon. How you can, the ideal type is a certain model, a construct of the reality to be studied is formulated, to be studied is formulated by the researcher. And how the researcher can formulate this by abstracting the most prominent feature of that phenomenon. It acts as a measuring rod to compare the similarities and differences between the real and ideal. So this ideal type is actually a tool which will compare the similarities and the differences between the real and ideal. What the actual is and what is the ideal situation. Is this clear? This ideal type enables the researcher to construct hypothesis. What is hypothesis? An educated guesses hypothesis. So this ideal types, and through this hypothesis you can compare the similarities and differences between real and ideal, right? This ideal type, there is yes, this ideal type enable the researcher to construct hypotheses linking them with the condition led to a particular phenomenon or event becoming prominent, or the consequences resulted from the emergence of the particular phenomenon. So this ideal type helps us to understand what actually, what the reality is and what the ideal type is. And you can do that, the researcher can do it by formulating the hypothesis. So ideal type is nothing but a research methodological tool, and this tool has been developed by the researcher by formulating the hypothesis, or this is a model on the basis of which the researcher studies and find out the gap between the ideal and the real. Social action. The next is social action. Max Weber conceived of sociology as comprehensive science of social action. So, according to Max Weber, this social action is very important, right? Weber's sociological work was guided towards the understanding the subjective meaning that human actors attach to their actions in their mutual orientation with specific social historical context. So, social action, he has given much emphasis on the social action, right? So according to the Max Weber, the subjective, it is very important to understand the subjective meaning that the human attaches to their action, why someone behaves in that particular way, what is the reason behind that, right? So it is important to understand the action of an individual in a subjective manner, and it is important to interpret his actions, right? So subjective, so he emphasized on the subjective study of the social action, right? In comparison with Durkheim and Marx, Weber also emphasized the role of values and culture in orienting the human behavior. According to him, that the values and beliefs plays a very important role in social actions, right? So social actions are very important, that is the central idea of his work, that according to him, that you should study, if you really want to study this society, you should study the social action of an actor in a subjective way and should interpret his actions with reference to a particular context. The Durkheim focused on the society and the social fact, which had both exterior and the constraint. We discussed about the social fact. Social fact was what? It was again a tool to study the facts. Social fact was nothing but the things which you really want to things, right? And these social facts were exterior and had some constraint. Weber focused on the individual and their action. So Durkheim focused on the social fact, while Weber focused on the individual and their actions, right? Social actions, social interaction. Marx argued that material world was more important than the world of ideas. Weber argued that ideas were motivating factor that shaped the action of an individual. Because he has given much emphasis on the action of an individual. So, as per Weber, that it is the ideas which are responsible for a particular type of an action of an individual. So, Weber, according to Weber, ideas are more important than the material, right? And these ideas shape ups the action of an individual and the reason behind the action of an individual, right? Durkheim was concerned with the institutional arrangement that maintained the cohesion of the social structure. So, Durkheim is a positivist, right? According to what was his aim, that he wants a cohesion, solidarity in the society, in the social structure. So he was concerned with the institutional structure. According to the Durkheim, society is more important than the individual, and when we will give importance to the society over individual, then only we can keep the society together, as per the Durkheim. And Marx devoted attention to the class struggle and to changing social and economic structure. That he's discussed, Marx discussed about the class structure, about the class conflict, and how the class conflict will change the social and the economic structure. Durkheim wanted the cohesion of the social structure. Marx wanted to change the social structure, and the Weber's primary focus was on the subjective meaning that the human actor attached to their action in their mutual orientation with the specific social historical context. And Max Weber wanted to study the meanings, the subjective meanings of the human action, why they behave in that particular way, right? So they wanted the subjective meaning that the human actor attached to their actions in their mutual orientation, right? Weber identified four types of social actions. The first is traditional, second, emotional or affective, third is value oriented, and fourth is goal oriented type of actions, right? Traditional action, traditional social action is based upon the values and customs of the society, which everyone follows, like rituals, customs, everyone follows. So traditional actions are based upon the values and customs of the society. Affective or emotive action depends on the emotional state of the mind of individual at a particular time. What is the emotional state of an individual at a particular time? So emotive functions or the emotive social action depends on the affective or the emotional state of mind. Rational action entails pursuing certain goals using rational meaning. Are you getting the things? Traditional action is based upon the values and customs. Affective actions upon the emotional state of the mind. And the rational entails the pursuing certain goals using rational means. Suppose an engineer is making a bridge, so his goal is to finish it off. So this is the rational action. He will take the decisions rationally, so that he can achieve his professional goals. So rational action entails pursuing certain goals using rational means, right? And Weber brought into his analysis the dimension of human action and considered the concrete action individual as a unit of analysis for understanding human action in society. So Weber has emphasized on an individual rather than the society. According to Weber, if you want to study society properly, it is important that you should study the human action subjectively, right? So he has analyzed the human action and considered the concrete acting individual as a unit of analysis. His interpretative sociology considered the individual and his or her action with the basic unit or the atom that only carries a meaningful conduct. So it is very important according to according to Max Weber. It is important that you should study the individual. You should study the action of an individual subjectively and interpret his action. Then only you can study the society. Then only you can understand the particular phenomenon, right? A value oriented rational action involves the pursuit of certain value or goal that may not be rational. A goal oriented action wherein goals and means are rationally chosen, and Weber used his typology of form of social understanding the social changes. Now, rational, we use this term rational many times. That is the traditional, right? That is goal oriented rational action, value oriented rational action. What is rationality? What does rationality means? Rationality, by rationality, Weber referred to a logical and coherent idea and behavior that govern human activity. What is rationality? A rationality is logical and coherent idea, a logical idea. And this logical idea governs the human activity. A logical idea which governs the human activity is known as rationality. It refers to the rationality, logical and the coherent idea which governs human action. The modern world is characterized by the rationality. Yes, we all are rational. Our actions are governed by logical and coherent idea. Right? Human activity is marked by methodological calculation. To Weber, rationalization means that principally there are no mysterious, incalculable forces that come into the play, but rather one can principle master all the thing by the calculation. One need no longer have recourse of magical means in order to master the implore with the spirit, as did the savage from such existed mysterious power. It is only the rationality, it is only the logical ideas which governs the actions, right? Okay. His studies in the sociology of religion document the rationalization of the religious life, and he also studied the process of rationalization in sphere of law, politics, authority, and even in the world of music. So he studied the rationality, the logical action, even in the religious life, even in the political life, authority and the law, and even in the world of music. Weber's vision of future was that world is so highly regulated and rationalized that we would become the prisoners of our own devices and trapped in an iron cage of our own making. We are so rationalized that one day we will be in trap of our own rationalities. Okay, and he discussed about the bureaucracy in this context. We'll discuss about the bureaucracy later on. Right now, religion and economy. There is, it seems to be difficult that there is any relationship between the religion and economy, but yes, according to the Weber, there is a relationship between religion and Weber. It is the religious beliefs and values that have that has given rise to the capitalism. According to Weber, it was the ideas, beliefs, values, and the worldview of human society that guided the way their member acted even in the economic sphere. There is no doubt that we are guided by our religious beliefs, we are guided by our values, we are guided by our beliefs, right? And even in the economic sphere, according to Max Weber, even in the economic sphere, the human beings are guided by their religious beliefs, values, right? That religion prescribes the certain guidelines of behaviors. It prescribes the certain guidelines of behavior, what should be done and what should not be done, right? So religion prescribes the certain guidelines of the behavior. It is in accordance with these guidelines that followers direct or oriented their activities. These guidelines are incorporated in the body of religious ethics or the religious systems, right? Ethical codes represent what ought to be done. They reflect the particular value and belief of social group which they are part. According to Weber, there are certain affinities between the Protestant religion, ethics, and the economic system known as the capitalism. As per the Weber, that it is the religious belief, right, which guides the human action, right, and the religion prescribes certain guidelines of the behavior, right? Religion prescribes certain guidelines of the behavior, and according to these guidelines the followers direct or orient their activities. And as per Max Weber, there are certain guidelines or there are certain affinities between the Protestant religious ethics and the economic system known as the capitalism. So, in according to Max Weber, in Protestant religious ethics states that the Protestant religious ethics state that one should work hard to earn and should earn profit and should invest that profit into business again so that they can earn more. Rather than spending the profits on the luxuries, one should invest that profit once again into business to earn more profit. And this analyze and the Weber analyzed it that it is because of the Protestant ethics, right, the economic system, Protestant ethics, that has given rise to the economic system known as capitalism. So, according to the Weber, there is a relationship between the religion and the economic activities. These affinities, said Weber, helped capitalism to grow in Western world. And Marx provided a systematic model of capitalism and the capitalistic development, as I told you. Weber examined the historical unfolding of capitalism by paying due attention of economic and political factor with the role of cultural factors like values, ideas, and the religious beliefs. So, as per Weber examined the nexus between the capitalism, right, uh, political factors and cultural factors and the religious beliefs, right? Unlike Marx, who gave primacy to the economic factor, Weber gave emphasis on the cultural factor, which shaped the way human beings thought about a particular activity and thus influenced their action. So it is Marx, according to Marx, it is only the economic, it is only the matter which is responsible for human action. But as per Weber, it is not only the economic, but it is also the culture, values, and beliefs which influences the human actions. After carefully studying the factor that led to the growth of capitalism in the West, Weber proposed the hypothesis that it was the Protestant ethic that broke the hold of the traditional way of thinking and acting and propelled the entirely new activity of working and accumulating wealth. So he studied the Protestant beliefs and values, and then he formulated a hypothesis that it is because of the Protestant ethics that has given rise to the capitalism. That is, that it has given entirely a new way of working and accumulating wealth. Right. Max Weber's perspective on religion, right? Max Weber applies his concept of rationalization to understand the change in religion, science, arts, administration, and politics. What is rationalization? Thinking logically, right? So he applied the concept of rationalization to understand the change in the religion. What are the various reasons for the change in the religion, science, arts, and administration and the politics? For Weber, capitalism itself was born out of the highest degree of economic rationalization. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.